The bright lights of the Montreal Forum shine down on the ice as we journey back to October 3rd, 1953. The arena stands as a cathedral of hockey, its wooden seats filled with passionate fans who have come to witness something special. Through the tunnel emerges a tall, graceful figure wearing the number 4, Beliveau, about to play his first official NHL game for the Montreal Canadiens. But before this moment, Belivau's story began in the small town of Victoriaville, Quebec. Born on August 31st, 1931, young Jean grew up in a modest household where his father worked at the local power company. The values that would shape hockey's future gentlemen were planted here: respect, hard work, and humility. Every winter, Jean's father would build a backyard rink where young Beliveau would spend countless hours perfecting his skating stride and stick handling. In school, Jean stood out not just for his height, but for his natural athletic ability. His teachers often noted how he carried himself with unusual poise for a young boy. While his classmates rushed through the halls, Jean moved with a calculated grace that would later become his trademark on the ice. He played hockey whenever he could, joining local teams and quickly becoming known as the best player in Victoriaville. As a teenager, Belivau's talent caught the attention of Quebec's top junior teams. He joined the Quebec Citadels, where his scoring touch and leadership abilities flourished. Soon, the Quebec Aces of the Quebec Senior Hockey League came calling. Here, Beliveau transformed from a promising youngster into a local legend. The Aces arena was packed every game, with fans coming from miles around just to watch Gros Bill play. His combination of size, skill, and gentlemanly demeanor made him unlike any other player. The Montreal Canadiens had their eye on Beliveau from early on, but getting him to join the NHL proved challenging. He was comfortable with the Aces, making good money and enjoying his status as Quebec City's hockey hero. The Canadiens tried several times to convince him to turn professional, but Beliveau remained loyal to the Aces and his Quebec City fans. This led to one of the most remarkable contracts in hockey history. The Montreal Canadiens, determined to acquire their future star, purchased the entire Quebec Senior Hockey League, effectively making them owners of Belivau's playing rights. It was an unprecedented move that showed just how valuable they considered the young center. Finally, in 1953, Beliveau agreed to join the Canadiens full-time. His arrival in Montreal marked the beginning of a new era in hockey. Here was a player who combined extraordinary skill with extraordinary character. Even in his first games, fans could see there was something different about Beliveau. He played with a unique style, powerful yet elegant, competitive yet sporty. His teammates quickly noticed how he carried himself with the same dignity, whether celebrating a goal or accepting a defeat. The Forum's bright lights that October night in 1953 illuminated more than just a hockey player making his NHL debut. They shone on a man who would redefine what it meant to be a professional athlete. Jean Belivau's journey from the backyard rink in Victoriaville to the shrine of hockey in Montreal was complete. But his true legacy as the gentleman of hockey was just beginning. In December 1956, a significant moment in hockey history unfolded at the Montreal Forum. Jean Beliveau, now in his 4th full season with the Canadiens, received the captain's C on his sweater. This wasn't just a letter being sewn onto a jersey. It marked the beginning of one of the most successful leadership eras in NHL history. The choice was natural. Beliveau had already earned the respect of both teammates and opponents through his play and character. The Montreal Canadiens of the late 1950s and 1960s became one of sport's greatest dynasties, with Beliveau at the center of it all. Between 1956 and 1971, the team would win 10 Stanley Cups, including an unprecedented 5 consecutive championships from 1956 to 1960. During these years, Belivau's presence on the ice was magical. His stick handling made the puck look like it was attached to a string, and his skating remained as smooth as it had been in his junior days. But it wasn't just about scoring goals and winning games. Beliveau brought a unique approach to leadership that changed how people viewed hockey captains. In an era when fighting and rough play were common, he showed that success could come through skill and sportsmanship. During heated games, he would often calm tensions with a few quiet words to both teammates and opponents. Other players respected him so much that even the toughest competitors would listen when he spoke. The Canadiens' dressing room during this time was filled with strong personalities and future Hall of Famers. Players like Maurice, Rocket, Richard, Doug Harvey, and Henri Richard were stars in their own right. Yet Beliveau managed to unite them all. He treated every teammate the same way, whether they were a superstar or a fourth-line player. When young players joined the team, Beliveau would take them under his wing, teaching them not just about hockey, but about carrying themselves as professionals. His rivalry with other team stars, particularly Gordie Howe of the Detroit Red Wings and Bobby Hull of the Chicago Blackhawks, became legendary. These battles were marked by incredible skill and mutual respect. After intense games, Beliveau would often visit the opposing team's locker room to check on players who had been injured during play, a gesture that was rare in those competitive times. The statistics from these years tell an impressive story. Beliveau scored 507 goals and added 712 assists in his career. But numbers alone don't capture his impact. In crucial moments, when the Canadiens needed a big play, Beliveau would rise to the occasion. He scored more playoff game-winning goals than any player of his era. Yet after each goal, his celebration remained modest. A quick raise of the stick, a few pats on the back for his teammates, and back to center ice for the next face-off. By the late 1960s, while Belivau's hair had started to gray, his dedication to excellence never wavered. Younger players around the league began to model their behavior after him, both on and off the ice. He showed that being a hockey player meant more than just performing during games. It meant being a role model at all times. The dynasty years under Belivau's leadership represented more than just championships. They showed how one player's commitment to excellence and dignity could lift an entire sport. In the pressure cooker environment of professional hockey, Jean Beliveau proved that grace and success could go hand in hand. His legacy during these years would influence generations of players to come, showing that true greatness in sport requires more than just skill. It requires character. Jean Belivau's influence stretched far beyond the confines of hockey rinks. In Quebec during the 1960s and 70s, he became more than just a hockey player. He was a cultural bridge. At a time when Quebec society was going through major changes, Beliveau served as a unifying figure. He showed equal comfort speaking both French and English, meeting with fans from all backgrounds, and representing the best of both cultures. His impact on Quebec society became so significant that in 1969, Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson offered him the role of Governor-General of Canada. This position would have made him the Queen's representative in Canada, the highest public office in the country. Despite the prestige of this offer, Beliveau declined. His reason was simple and touching. He wanted to spend more time with his wife Elise and daughter Helene. This decision showed that even with all his success, family remained his top priority. The business world also recognized Belivau's special qualities. After retiring as a player, he joined the Canadiens' front office as an executive. In this role, he helped shape the team's future while serving as a link to its glorious past. Major companies sought his involvement on their boards, knowing that his name brought instant respect and credibility. Yet Beliveau was selective about his commitments, choosing to work mainly with organizations that gave back to the community. His dedication to helping others showed in his extensive charity work. In 1971, he established the Jean Beliveau Foundation, which focused on helping children in need. He spent countless hours visiting hospitals, schools, and community centers. Unlike some celebrities who made brief appearances at charity events, Beliveau would stay for hours, making sure he spoke with everyone who wanted to meet him. He treated each person, whether a corporate executive or a young fan, with the same respect and attention. The hockey world continued to benefit from his wisdom long after his playing days. As an ambassador for the sport, he attended NHL events and worked to grow the game internationally. Young players sought his advice, not just about hockey, but about life. Many NHL stars from the 1970s and 80s tell stories about how a conversation with Beliveau helped shape their careers and personal lives. His role in hockey's development went beyond just being a spokesman. He pushed for better safety measures in the game and supported programs that help retired players. When the NHL began expanding to new cities, Beliveau served as an informal advisor, helping new teams understand the importance of connecting with their communities. He believed hockey teams had a responsibility to be good citizens in their cities. In Montreal, his presence remained strong. He attended most Canadiens' home games, sitting in his regular seat at the Forum and later at the Bell Center. During intermissions, fans of all ages would approach him for autographs or just to shake his hand. He never turned anyone away, often missing parts of games to ensure every fan felt acknowledged. This accessibility was rare for someone of his stature, but it was simply part of who he was. What made Beliveau special beyond the ice was his understanding that fame brought responsibility. He showed that sports figures could be more than just athletes. They could be leaders in society. Through his actions, he demonstrated that true greatness isn't just about what you achieve, but about how you use your success to help others. His influence on Quebec and Canadian society proved that athletes could transcend their sport and become genuine role models for entire communities. On March 24, 1971, the Montreal Forum witnessed one of its most emotional evenings, Jean Beliveau's retirement ceremony. The building was packed with fans, former teammates, and opponents who came to honor the man who had redefined hockey leadership. As his number 4 jersey rose to the rafters, it represented more than just his playing career. It symbolized a standard of excellence and dignity that would inspire future generations. After retirement, Beliveau's connection to hockey remained strong through the Jean Beliveau Trophy, established by the NHL to recognize players who made outstanding contributions to their communities. This award perfectly captured what Beliveau stood for: the idea that hockey players had a responsibility to be leaders both on and off the ice. Each year, when the trophy is presented, stories of his kindness and generosity are shared with new audiences. His influence on hockey culture continues to ripple through the sport. In NHL dressing rooms, coaches often tell their players to be like Beliveau, meaning to carry themselves with class regardless of circumstances. Team captains study his leadership style, learning that quiet strength can be more effective than loud words. When the NHL celebrates its history, Belivau's name is always mentioned among the greatest, not just for his playing ability, but for how he elevated the sport's reputation. The Montreal Canadiens organization still uses Belivau's example when teaching young players about professional responsibility. His locker at the Bell Center is preserved, serving as a reminder of the values he represented. New players joining the team are shown as highlights and told stories about his character, ensuring his influence continues with each new generation of Canadians. In Quebec, his legacy extends beyond sports. Schools and streets bear his name, not just because he was a great hockey player, but because he showed how to handle success with humility. Business schools use his leadership style as a case study in effective management. Community organizations continue to be inspired by his dedication to helping others, particularly his work with children's charities. When Beliveau passed away in 2014, the outpouring of respect came from all corners of society. Political leaders, athletes, business executives, and everyday fans shared stories about how he had touched their lives. The state funeral held in his honor demonstrated that he had become more than a sports figure. He was a national icon who had helped shape Canadian values. Today, his legacy lives on through the Jean Beliveau Foundation, which continues to support various charitable causes. The foundation's work ensures that his spirit of giving back to the community remains active and influential. Young players who receive assistance through the foundation learn about Belivau's values and are encouraged to carry them forward in their own lives. His story has become part of hockey's essential fabric. When people talk about the greatest players in NHL history, Belivau's name is always mentioned, not just for his 10 Stanley Cups or his scoring records, but for how he played the game and lived his life. He showed that success in sports isn't just measured by statistics and championships, but by the impact you have on others and the legacy you leave behind. The true measure of Jean Belivau's legacy is that it transcends hockey. He provided a template for how athletes, and indeed all public figures, can use their platform to make a positive difference in society. His life demonstrated that grace, dignity, and excellence are not just ideals to admire, but standards to live by. In a world that often celebrates flash over substance, Belivau's legacy reminds us that true greatness comes from how you treat others and the values you uphold.